Hi, this is Lorraine, and I'm doing another video. If you'll give me a second to clear, center, and balance my energy, we'll get started. Okay, so it was quiet all morning and early afternoon, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a video. No construction. The second I start preparing everything, they start hammering. So there might be some hammering in the background. The other thing is, while I was clearing my energy, I kept on seeing the sun. I keep seeing the sun and the moon merging, which just to me means the merging, blending of masculine and feminine, merging and blending of duality. And there's so many different implications, but that I can extrapolate from that, but I'll just say it is this understanding, this overreaching symbolism that I feel is this merging an understanding of duality, what it represents for us here on earth, and us reconciling this idea of duality and what it represents and what we're supposed to learn from it. That is the message for me. The overreaching message is that we are reconciling this idea. Those who are transcending have started the process of reconciling this concept, this idea, this construct of duality and what it means for them and what we're supposed to get out of it, okay? What we were meant to get out of it from this very physical, material plane, 3D, I'll just use that term, 3D reality. And it's not just in my clearing that I saw this. Like when I walk around, I'm always seeing moon, star and moon, star and moon, excuse me, moon and sun, or I guess the sun is a star, right? But I keep on seeing those two things together, right? On billboards or on cards, like oracle cards, or just generalized across my day. And so as I have this vision of those two symbols merging, that's the message for me, or the message that I'm getting that I should share. Also, I've been getting this, I got sick a few weeks ago, and my throat was sore, and I even talked about how I put the amber over my throat and it helped the soreness go away. And so it's just been lingering for a while. And so I looked it up in my book, Body's the Barometer of the Soul, and I feel I don't have it with me. I should have brought it. But what it symbolizes is people not seeing things from your perspective, or you not being able to get people to see things from your perspective. And so that's creating the soreness in my throat. So this idea of, so I convey these messages, and this idea of trying to help people see things from a different perspective, that's kind of what I'm meant to do, right? Convey these messages I'm receiving from a balanced place to help people see things from a different perspective. And if people aren't, if I look around at the world, I'm not talking about any one specific person, as I look out into the world, clearly people are not receiving this message. And so that creates this frustration within me. And so that is where where me personally, the message for me is setting boundaries, knowing what I can do and what I can't do, and allowing people to live their own lives and make their own choices. And as we do this, we create karma, okay? So allowing people to live their life and make the choices that they make, whether those consequences are positive or negative, and deal with the consequences of that. So my point in bringing up my throat is that was the spiritual concept related to that soreness. But also last night, I was thinking I should do the video last night instead of today for a number of reasons, which is unusual. And as I was doing that, my throat was getting sore, more sore, almost feeling like the air, like I couldn't get as much air through my throat, and I couldn't swallow. So I started thinking maybe I have strep throat or all these things. All these things started going through my head. And then also the possibility of energetic attacks to stop me from speaking. And so before I went to bed, I did a whole bunch of stuff and clearing and asking for help. And so when I woke up this morning, there was very little soreness. And then as I got closer to making the video, no pain. And so I have to acknowledge that correlation between making the video, deciding to make the video at a different time, and then having the soreness happen, as well as my own blocks in my desire to help and awaken people, but also knowing that I'm not meant to directly affect people. I'm meant to convey messages, and that people need to process that information, reconcile it, determine whether or not it has value, and then move forward from there. It's not my place to necessarily create change or influence anybody. I'm just here as a conduit to share messages. Okay, so understanding the difference between sharing the messages and influencing people's perceptions. I'm not meant to influence their perceptions. I'm meant to be a conduit, okay? A bridge, okay? And I keep on getting that. That came in this week. Actually, for many weeks recently, I keep on having visions of bridges. I actually almost bought a journal with a bridge on it. But understanding this concept of bridging the gap, existing between the spaces and filling in the gaps, bridging those gaps, okay? Understanding that role as opposed to this idea that has been prevalent on this world of exacting a force on others to create change, to get them to see your perception, your perspective, your point of view, and influencing their point of view based on your point of view, right? I'm not meant to do that. I'm meant to convey the messages as they come, allow people to process that information as they will, and utilize it as they find value in it, and then move forward. Okay, however they utilize that information is up to them. Okay, so that is, I think, my journey in this soreness of my throat that I've been dealing with. And so I'm just going to go to my journal. Let's see, 5/28, May 28th, vision from 5/24/2023 that I forgot to write down. Oh, okay. Oh, I took a nap after work. When I opened my eyes, I saw a bouquet of red roses that opened. So there's a bouquet right in front of me. I was kind of looking down at it, and all the roses just bloomed in the bouquet at the same time. Then I saw a blue butterfly like the one I always use when I'm texting or on social media. And so I always use this blue butterfly. It's part of just the emojis or whatever in my phone. And I always use that to represent change, awakening, awareness. And so I saw that blue butterfly, and then I saw bubbles. And so the roses, to me, represent divine love, divine creation, being presented to me in the bouquet and blossoming. So divine love and divine creation blossoming and flourishing before me. The blue butterfly, I use it always to represent change and metamorphosis. And so it's representing change and metamorphosis. And so let me go on. Bubbles, zero or a sphere. They look like a circle, a sphere, a zero, however you want to look at it. It's beginning without end, alpha and omega. no top, no bottom, no left, no right, front or back. It is a whole. It is whole and all encompassing. It can expand or retract and contains all. So first of all, these three symbols can be for me. I took it very much as a personal message, but it also can be a global message for everybody. I've used this before. Oh, sorry, this is heavy. When I look at spheres or anything spherical in shape, round, you can say this is the top, this is the bottom, left, right, front, back, right? But if you turn it, now this is the front. Wherever the front was, or this is the top. Wherever the top was before, it's in a different spot. But this is always the top. No matter how you turn the sphere, this is always the top, right? And so this idea of top, bottom, front, back is a construct, right? These are all constructs. And this sphere can be as small or as large as we want. So as a field of energy, if we consider this sphere a field of energy, it can be as large or as small as it needs to be, and it will always contain that which it contains from a universal perspective. Not necessarily this, because obviously this is material plane, although I think at some point in our evolution we can expand and shrink this as large or as small as we want, and it would always contain the same items or the same elements. The universe, from a higher perspective, from this source energy, the universe is merely a particle of energy. Okay, that one particle of energy contains the whole of the universe within it. We just perceive it as this large, expansive thing. Okay, and so this sphere, round, zero, is that represents infinite possibility. Okay, that's what I would say overall. It represents infinite possibility. So we have roses, divine love and creation, butterfly, metamorphosis, change, and then the sphere, infinite possibilities. Okay. The idea of control. So this is another section. The idea of control will soon be revealed as a construct. Karma. We are all responsible for our karmic debt. I work with a powerful group of light workers. We go into very dark places. We help each other. Sorry, give me a minute. Sorry. We help each other shoulder the weight of karmic debt. The feeling is that not everyone is ready or willing to carry the depth of karmic debt for another. It is important for me to say this because essentially we are all responsible for our own karmic debt. But there are exceptions. We, those of us working from this place, willfully take on the weight of karmic debt for our brothers and sisters. We support one another and love one another unconditionally. From this plane of existence and the higher realms. We support one another and love one another unconditionally from this place of existence and the higher realms. This is what makes us unstoppable. We are a unifying force, creating a unifying field. And so that came in because I talked so much about karmic debt I think in the last video, and how we're all accountable for our karmic debt, and our words, actions, intentions determine that karmic debt. And I don't know if this is true for everybody across the board, but I know that I have a small group of energies that I incarnate with lifetime after lifetime on many levels or planes of existence. And my grandmother and my father are two. And then I have become aware of several others that aren't necessarily people who I see every day, people that I know, that I've met before, that I'm related to, but I know through my telepathic engagements with them that they are part of that group, and that we go into very dark places, and as a result, we come out with this karmic debt, and we help each other carry that debt. And I know from here, I've had all these epiphanies in the last few years of a friend of mine that I met a few years ago, who willfully came into this lifetime carrying some of my karmic debt from past lives. And it's very difficult to watch the struggle that he goes through in this lifetime trying to maintain his center. But he did that so I could fulfill my path and purpose in this lifetime without the weight of some past life karmic debt. And so we do that for each other over many lifetimes, in many lifetimes, across many planes of existence. And the debt is heavy because of what is asked of us. And so I don't know really how to translate this very well in from this level of consciousness, because when I say that they carry my karmic debt, it sounds like I've been out being a tyrannical leader or something on another world or in a different lifetime. And that's not necessarily the truth. We are asked to move into certain situations or certain lifetimes, certain existences, to have certain experiences for this source energy, and we are meant to have those experiences and then find our way back to balance and then move forward from there. So we have that experience in that lifetime, we bring ourselves back to balance, and then we're able to look back at that experience from that place, from a balanced place within that incarnation, and bring perspective from that level of awareness or consciousness in that lifetime. It's different than, let's say, if I had experienced this dark lifetime, died, and then returned to source. I never had a reconciliation of truth from that plane of existence. So there is a difference that I can't really explain verbally. Like when it comes in telepathically, it's very clear, but when I try to find words to describe it, it doesn't really translate. So I feel like it's better not to explain that, or I'm not meant to explain that. We're all supposed to raise our vibration and find our center so that we can have those epiphanies on our own. But I know that, and I feel it. So I just want to explain that, while also just sharing that information with other people who may be searching for the why. Why have I had these experiences? Because what happens is if they hear my voice saying this and they get the goosebumps like I get, it validates. It's a validation for them. They could be like, oh, so her story is similar to my story. The reason why I'm going through this is the same reason that she went through that, right? And so they may have whatever intuitive or spiritual experiences that help them understand and reveal truth, or the truth of their lives and their experiences. Okay? There's something else that kept coming to me, and I didn't write it down, and I'm like, I'll just remember. And it came to me and it left, so it's not coming back, so I'll just keep moving forward. So 5/28, 5/28, May 28th, 2023, the vision of the white headdress from 5/27. Okay, I had a vision. It was really profound, and sometimes I don't really want to share those. But today when I was thinking about it, because I remembered that it was in my journal, and I'm like, do I want to share that? And the message was, you should share it. I was sitting on the couch. Then I saw myself walking through an Indian reservation. I was in a very rural location, so it was very rural. And so here in Seattle, there's a lot of reservations that are full-on cities, right? Used to be reservations, and now they're cities, right? I guess the whole of the nation is one big Indian reservation, or it should be. But I think it was the Duwamish, where another tribe came to this area, and this is the Duwamish land, and they were like saying, thank you for letting us, or inviting us onto your land, or allowing us to come onto your land. And so my point being is, this was a very, very rural location today. It was not modern day city environment. The people were very poor. Then I saw myself get on a white horse. We were walking across the land, me and the horse. I was riding the horse, and it was just walking. We were on plains, so this was, if I were to think about it, it would be Plains Indians, land where the Plains Indians would have resided. I then saw that I was wearing a huge white headdress. So this was a huge white headdress that came up, and then it came all the way down my back. And this is the second time I've had this vision. I have a playlist called The Circle of Creation, and I had another vision similar in one of those videos. I think there's 4 or 5 videos in there. My clothes were white. I wore a white top and pants. I had on a white overlay. So I had on a white shirt, long sleeve, full length pants, and then a white overlay. So it was like a white panel across the front, and it was a rectangular in shape. And it was white panel down the back, and then it had like a short, like a tank over the shoulders. So it covered my front and back. It went down the front and back, about to my knees or a little below. My clothes had a red stripe down my arms and down the side of my pants. So down the side of my arm on both sides, and down a strip down the side of my pants all the way down to my ankles was a red stripe about 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick. I did not have any foot coverings. I walked the horse in through where the people resided. No hurry, very majestic. It was very emotional for me. There was one small child, a boy, that walked up to me. He was about 4 or 5 years old. I told him he would grow up to lead his people. And he would be a very good leader. That was for him. No one else was to know yet. So I shared that information with him alone, but he wasn't supposed to tell anybody. It was for him to know and to grow into. And then I just kind of drew this really bad photograph or drawing of me on a horse walking. 5/29/2023. So this is another vision. One soul, one energy, solemn, calm, quiet, laying static in space. So I could see myself kind of laying static in space. Then many iconic figures throughout Earth's history begin to merge into that one energy. I can't identify all the historic, iconic, religious, even maybe mythical beings because I do not know all of human history, but these would be incredibly influential beings on this world. These beings' consciousnesses became one in service to humanity, Mother Earth, and all transcending energy. Native American, so then I listed like Native American, Celtic, Druid, Buddhist, Asian, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, previous civilizations like Atlantis. I see others, but I do not have names for them. So all these energies, consciousnesses began to merge into that one person, that one energy. 5/30/2023. Balanced energy creates a two-way street between the fractal and source energy. Distortion happens on both the positive and negative sides. Just as an energy moving into the darkness can experience and inflict depravity on an individual or environment, an energy moving into an unbalanced positive field can engage in an equally maniacal experience. A pedophile can delude his or herself that a child they are molesting is having an equally enjoyable or beneficial experience. A grown man or woman can convince a minor, a teen, that their sexual encounter that maybe was even consensual was beneficial to both, since they both may have had an orgasm, until that teenager, who is now 35, looks back at the experience and sees and understands how he or she was manipulated by that adult. And then as that vision, that information was coming to me, that the Joey Buttafuoco, Amy Fisher, Mary Jo Buttafuoco situation that happened like 20 plus years ago came to mind, where this teenage girl was manipulated by this older man, and then the tragedy that happened after that, and then they had like some article through people that I was reading about how everybody made a bunch of money because of this tragedy, how and Amy Fisher, I think, started doing pornography, and she became a millionaire, and I don't know how anybody could be like, so I shouldn't project myself, but I don't feel like the fact that you became wealthy from a tragedy like this, it makes any of it okay. But the point being that still a child was manipulated. And it's not until most of those children become older, 10, 20, 30 years later, that they really can see from a different perspective what happened, because now they have the experience in life to be able to see how they were manipulated and taken advantage of. Okay, and that is when I had that epiphany, when I was in therapy when I was 22 or something in college, and that memory of being molested as a child by my oldest brother came back to me because it was buried. I went through a whole litany of emotional conflict of trying to validate why someone would do that, and then being angry, and then feeling victimized, and then having to move through all these emotions before I can reconcile the experience and why it happened and what that meant for me. Not that it ever made it okay, but I had to be removed from it and be able to see it from a different perspective to really be able to understand it, go through whatever pain, sadness that I needed to before I could release it and move forward and live from a healthy mindset and be able to find and maintain balance. So my point in bringing all this up is that perception is a huge part of this reality, and any person can living out of balance, being in an unbalanced energy doesn't necessarily mean that you're living in the darkness and you're being living a life of depravity, meaning murdering, torturing of people. When people think of darkness, that's the first place they go to, is how others are being harmed. But there is an unbalanced energy that can be considered the positive, the light side, right? And there is a level of, I would say, almost a maniacal quality on the positive side. And so my mom was bipolar. I don't think she was super extremely, I don't know, there's different degrees of everything, and I don't feel like my mom was to the point where she would harm people. But I do remember her being up at like midnight, all of a sudden vacuuming and playing Lay Down Sally from Eric Clapton, which she loved, and she was happy and she was having fun, and she was vacuuming the living room at midnight. And so there's just something wrong with that, and it's, that would be something you would do during the day, especially when you have kids who are sleeping, who need to go to school, and or whatever. There is I've used this example also, people who work out to the excess, to the point of depriving their family of their presence, if they have a family. Eating can be such a wonderful experience. There's some delicious food out there, but to the excess where you become morbidly obese, that's unhealthy. That's unbalanced energy. And so there's something that's causing that unbalanced energy. It's not just about liking food and liking the taste of food, because to be morbidly obese, that means you're eating more than your body needs. Okay, and so there is something's being substituted, right? Food is a substitution for something. I'm not gonna say, I don't know what it is, because it's individual for each person, but that is also living out of balance. Okay, so there's things that can be perceived as good, but could also move you out of center. Okay. I shouldn't say not only just move you out of center, it could have you living an unbalanced life. Okay. 5/31, May 31st, 2023. I had the vision once again of, Michael Jaco. The one where he was talking to me about staying in the now the experience with the multiple assailants. Okay. So he came into my field. So he came into my field and asked me how I could access his path and purpose. I explained the above and told him of that experience. Okay. So I told him about that experience. So the experience was, and I think this is from about a year ago, I was sitting on my couch and I started seeing myself fighting or defending myself, and I was hitting, striking and blocking. I could feel myself, my body moving. I could feel my stance. I could feel small movements in the lower body, just kind of adjusting, because I have to move my upper body, so my lower body's kind of automatically moving to adjust to whatever my upper body was doing, and I could feel myself blocking and striking, and I could hear myself saying, stay right here, right now. This is what you have to focus on, right here, right now. And it turned out it wasn't me, it was Michael Jaco, and I was living through one of his experiences, and I had this one person in front of me, and I felt like it could have been it wasn't a training experience. It was something, it was like one of his initial first experiences out in the field as a soldier trained in special forces. And so he was a little anxious, and he was dealing with this one person, and he was anticipating other people coming, and he kept on telling himself, stay right here, right in this moment, right now, just focus on what's right in front of you. And I could feel him, and I could see him, I shouldn't even say I could see him, because I was seeing the experience through his eyes. And eventually, and I knew there was a door behind me that more people could come in, and eventually I think there was 5 total. I think 4 other guys came in, and which he dealt with. But I had gone through this experience so many times, like throughout that week, that eventually it wasn't me experiencing it through him. Eventually it was me having that experience. Okay, I was like, okay, wait, is this me or is this him? And I couldn't tell the difference between his energy field and my energy field, and it was very strange. So I'm just gonna read. I explained the above and retold that experience. I got to the part where I explained that I had lived through that experience so many times that I couldn't tell the difference between him and me. We merged perfectly. Our vibrations were in perfect sync. We were not different, we were one. I knew we were a reflection of one another. We reflected ourselves. We reflected ourselves to the other. I have not been to war in this lifetime, though I have fought in many. When I see myself reflected in another, and that person reflected in me, I walk towards truth. When I know the person before me is not a reflection of me, but is me, I understand unity. When I know all things, all energy are me, and merely a reflection of divine consciousness, the journey home is underway. All things I perceive in my field are a product of my consciousness, of me. They are me. This universe is a product of divine consciousness. This whole universe is the field of divine awareness, just as my field creates the reality I exist within. All of our fields unified create the divine consciousness. I am everything, everywhere, and nowhere. I permeate all things, unified always, never apart. And so what I was explaining was understanding sharing this experience, merging my consciousness with his consciousness, understanding that we are a reflection of one another. And then when I take it a step further, not only are we a reflection of one another, but we are one and the same. We're moving from this idea of everything is a reflection of me to all things are unity. Okay, so this evolution of my conscious awareness. And once I understand that all things are a reflection of divinity, that source energy, and thus I am source energy, you are source energy, we are all source energy, the journey back to home is underway. And so when he's asking me, how can you access my soul purpose? I have everything I need when I need it. I have all the information I need when I need it. But when I'm able to access, and I see and understand myself as source energy truthfully, and live from that place, then I am provided the information. Okay? I don't ask for information. I don't go into meditate and channel and say, I need to know this about this person, this about that person. It just comes to me as I need it. Okay, so if I'm asking for personal information about someone, then I'm violating their privacy. That's not okay. Okay, but as I journey through on my path and purpose, I am provided the information I need to fulfill my path and purpose. And because I'm living in this physical body, I'm functioning through this brain. This physical brain can only hold so much information. And I have to process that information through my consciousness, but through my brain, the information and how my brain holds information. And I have to honor that boundary, okay, or that limited space. And so I can't have all information in the universe contained within this brain, because it's not, the storage space isn't large enough. Let's put it that way. The storage space isn't large enough. But I've been having experiences where my head feels like it's expanding, like a balloon. Excuse me. And I feel like what that's enabling me to do is hold more information. So as my vibration rises, my DNA, my physical abilities, I'm influenced mind, body, and spirit. And so my capacity to hold information in my consciousness is expanding. That's what that message is. Whenever I feel my head expand, it literally feels like a balloon blowing up. I feel like that's what's happening. So that was the long answer, but the short answer is I get what I need when I need it. Okay, 6/2, June 2nd. The message comes, elements of this process that consider themselves white hats who have or demonstrate a need to control, a need to understand this thought or compulsion is working against them. They are projecting dark, unbalanced energy. So there's a lot of people who are working from this white hat paradigm who are trying to do good, but there's such a need to control the situation that in and of itself, that need to control and what they do in order to control the flow or the direction of whatever is happening is working against them. This compulsion or thought or need to control the process and what's happening and information, let's say, is working against them, and it's actually projecting negative energy. Because what this process is about, what we're going through, this tribulation, revelation, transcendence, is about trust and faith. Okay, and that involves connecting to the heart, connecting to the source, the divine energy within, and then the divine energy that is unity. Okay, there are those white hats who are consciously living in the darkness, following path and purpose. There are those black hats living in the light consciously. So there are white hats who have been asked to live in the darkness. That sounds very confusing, I know. And they do that. They've experienced the darkness, and they still carry the light within, because it's important for there always to be light in the darkness. Okay? And so because they are fulfilling their path and purpose, that is where they're meant to be, and they consciously make that choice to go into the darkness and be present and be a light, a force of light and goodness in the darkness. But there are those black hats that actually are living consciously in the light, that have, in their process of what they've experienced and seen, starting to shift their consciousness to a place of balanced energy, of light, of seeing, after being steeped in this darkness, seeing that this is not something that resonates with them, and they're moving into light. And we have to allow that. We have to. So I was watching a reader, and they say this a lot in this esoteric community: hold space for them, right? And I don't understand. I still use terms like light worker, though, and I've heard people say I don't like that term. People who I consider very high vibration. So I guess we all have our things that our terms that we use, but or phrases. But holding space, as I'm talking about this dark energy who's finding its way back to the light, I think holding space is a really great term. So we hold space for them to move into this place, and we provide a safe space for them to walk out of the darkness and back to the light. So that means no judgment. That means unconditional love, compassion, kindness, right? And allowing them to move through the light, and we don't want them to be afraid of shifting their energy, shifting their perspective, right? Coming to a different place, moving to center. We don't want that. We don't want to judge them. We want to open our arms, our hearts, the doors to a new way. Okay? That's what that means. Then there are those who call themselves white hats, who are acting in ways they believe are good, who are truly projecting unbalanced energy. And so that is much more prevalent and much more visual in the United States, in our paradigm, in our reality, in our media. Okay? And so I would just say a couple years ago, the rioting for within the black communities, where they were destroying their targets, their stores that provided the stuff they need, food, diapers, formula, right? Those I can't not comment on the synchronicity where all this loud noise starts coming in as I talk about something that this manipulative energy doesn't want to be spoken, doesn't want to be revealed. But because these people think that they're doing something good, and they term it reparations, as they destroy the things that they need, right? It's being harmful. People have died in those experiences, and it's brought a lot of negative, unbalanced energy to the surface, to our society, under the term of reparations, or trying to create equality. Is that what reparations are? Trying to create equality? That is a word I would use to describe what I perceive when I hear someone say, we are so pissed that we're going to destroy all these businesses in the name of reparations, in the name of equality, right? And that, I believe, would be it feels like a contradiction to me, to say that you're trying to find equality through destruction, okay? Because violence begets violence. And so I feel like also what I'll say I witnessed is my daughter, they're trying to take away her IEP, and she has a diagnosed auditory processing disorder, a significant one, not a mild one, a significant one. There's one of her classes, there's been some really unacceptable behavior happening, and the teacher did nothing in the classroom, nothing to stop it, and said, oh, he's just blowing off steam. My perspective is this is a student who's struggling and that needs help. I'm not judging, I'm saying he needs help. Behavior is completely inappropriate, but he needs help. But all they do is say, oh, he's just blowing off steam, and allow it to happen, right? So all these injustices, and this is a kid with a class with students who have IEPs. So what I'm witnessing through my daughter and her experiences is these children with IEPs who have disabilities being marginalized, but the rights of those who are, the gender issue is on the forefront. Let's put it that way. The whole issue of gender is the priority for everything these days, and nothing's being paid. The children with disabilities, academic disabilities, struggling in school academically are being marginalized, and in order to place on a pedestal as a priority this gender issue that has been brought to the forefront through the media. Okay, you decide what your opinion or feelings are on that. I know what mine are. My choice in how I deal with it is working with my daughter on her spiritual path and how to look at it from a spiritual perspective, but also how we deal with the academic component. Is she's right now back in high school back in homeschool until we figure out and go through due process with the school district. So let's go on here. Similarly, there are many black hats who have chosen unbalanced energy, who awaken and begin to unwittingly to break free from the chains that bind them, which I discussed just a few minutes ago. Having and maintaining clear-centered and balanced energy empowers our ability to discern truth and move forward from a place of clarity. We are not being asked to change the world, but ourselves. By our commitment to growth, change, self-awareness, we change and grow, and by default, we change the world around us. Everything we need lies within. All the change this world needs comes from changing our thinking, shifting the paradigms from which we live. Okay, 6/3, June 3rd, 2023. Gracie Gary, balancing the masculine and feminine energy in the home. So my plants carry both the masculine and feminine energy. All plants do. And so this is Gracie. And for years, since I've had her, I think I got her the first year I moved here. I've had her for about 4 years now, I think. And she shifts. Sometimes when she engages me, it is from a masculine energy, a masculine voice. And sometimes it's a feminine voice. And I didn't want to name her Gary. I tried to come up, but because that's a friend of mine, but that's what Gracie calls herself when she's embodying masculine, is Gary. And so as I was taking care of her today, he was sharing with me some information. So all energies, homeostatic state exists in balance. Plants, people, soil, insects, all beings and energy in the ocean carry both masculine and feminine, embody yin-yang energy in balance when we are existing in our natural homeostatic state. So when we are in naturally, if we didn't have all this stuff that's happening on the planet, where we're transcending to actually, is a place of absolute balance. And so when this world is in balance, we all things will embody both masculine and feminine, light and dark, hot and cold, left and right, but in balance. Okay, that is our homeostatic state. All things embody both this masculine and feminine energy. And I do feel intuitively that that's the reason why we're having all these gender things being brought up, to create confusion around masculine and feminine. Okay, this dual nature, and it's manifesting right now. Duality is in everything, but right now in this world, the prevailing topic of interest is male, female, masculine, feminine. Okay. When our energy shifts, all energy around us shifts. When Gracie becomes Gary, I know I'm sitting in a more feminine energy. Mother, as I spoke of last week. So the last video I talked about the 2 visions I had of mother, right? As myself as mother. So when Gary becomes Gracie, that tells me that I'm sitting in a more masculine state because she's balancing my energy. Okay. When Gary becomes, okay, I just said that. There are also times when my peace lily Gracie or Gary moves readily between the 2 energies. So right now, because the plant is calling itself Gary, it tells me that I'm sitting in a much more feminine, receptive energy. But there are times when she moves fluidly between the 2, where it's almost like dealing with twins. And so that's telling me when she's in that balanced state, she, then I'm sitting in a balanced state of my masculine and feminine energies that I carry within. What this means to me is as we shift, all energy around us shifts. It is our thoughts that shift this energy. In order to shift and change in a healthy way, for the only thing constant in the universe is change, we must do so from a balanced state, not wholly or deeply steeped in any one thing, but open to change from a balanced and loving place. This allows us to sit in the flow of energy and create change from a clear, centered, and balanced place for the greater good. This is not about any one thing. This is for the whole, oneness, everything. We are everything, everywhere, and nowhere. We permeate all things, unified always, never apart. And so then I was thinking about the character, the vision I had of the caricature of Bill Clinton sitting in the electric chair. This last week I was thinking about that, and the other thing that came to me was the caricature implies many fake Bill Clintons. So there's people talk about clones or lookalikes, and so I'm not really going to comment on that, but what that tells me, I'm not going to comment on that, but what the vision tells me is that it's true, that they are, there is an energy or a force that is starting to, or a people that is starting to weed out and move through and find these cancers in our society, and these negative or unbalanced influences on our society, and trying to remove them so they don't keep infecting the healthier parts of the body of humanity. Okay, and so because there are so many false or fake people, energies, beings, they're starting to have to work much more methodically through this process. And I think intuitively, I feel like, and this is just coming to me right now, I feel like they are having to tap into their own intuition to really start discerning where our energy should be best expended. Okay, so they're not chasing everything. Okay. Or false leads, or expending energy that they don't need to or shouldn't be expending. Hold on just a minute. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.